Welcome to Digital Ship webinar. And today we are exploring how new maritime tracking and monitoring technologies can assist fleet managers. Let me quickly introduce you to our four guest speakers. Here with us, we have Rachel Lowe, who is the General Manager at Elite eParts in Singapore, Nadeem Khan, Associate Vice President Market Development at Thuraya, and his colleague Dede Abidin, Director Southeast Asia and Australia, also from Thuraya. And finally, Kiran Venkatesh, co-founder and CEO at FrontM. Thuraya Communications Company is sponsoring this webinar. Use your chance to ask the speakers questions, simply typing them to Q&A box that you see. And I'm inviting Carl Jeffrey, founding editor of Digital Ship, to introduce us to today's topic.
Well, thank you, Vida. So the subject today is automated tracking and monitoring of vessels. So that's how we get information about ships automatically rather than sent manually by the people on board. So where the ship is the main thing, and perhaps a bit more like what the ship is doing or what the sensors are saying. And of course, not everybody wants automated alerting. We're going to hear a little bit today about illegal fishing. That's one of the examples where automated alerting may have some resistance. But you can also argue that it's inevitable we're going to see more automated tracking, just as we get remote monitoring of our car drivers and buildings and animals and even our children. And there's a lot of people who want to know more what's happening on ships in an automated way. This is the second time we've done a webinar on this. We did one on proactive safety alerting on May 21st, was kind of a very similar theme. So we want to talk about ideas how we can get value, business opportunities from automated tracking and remote monitoring. And we're also going to focus on the capabilities of the Thuraya Satellite Communications Service. So we've got three companies involved in the webinar today who all work together. Thuraya, which is a mobile satellite communications network in Dubai. Allied eParts, which is a maritime electronics distributor based in Singapore. And FrontM, which is an app builder based in London. They specialize in remote customers, workforces, and automation. We've got four talks, about 6 to 10 minutes long, and then we're going to have a Q&A session, and we're going to finish about 10 o'clock UK time. So you can enter questions in the Q&A box at any time. It'd be useful if you say who the question's for, and the speakers can answer the questions by typing or orally, and just don't ask, please, any questions about pricing or financial issues, which is the speakers can't answer. So first, we're going to hear from Thuraya about how the customers are doing more remote monitoring and tracking and the SATCOM services to support it, including tracking fuel consumption, tracking fishing vessels. And we'll also hear about Thuraya's satellite communications devices that got APIs, so you can integrate cloud software with them and do all kinds of clever things. So the talk is from Nadeem Khan, VP Market Development in Dubai. So first question for Nadeem is, what developments are you seeing in satellite communication, data exchange, and other technologies which help with maritime tracking and monitoring?
Great, thanks, Carl. Thanks, everyone. This is actually all part of the digitalization. It's a very broad topic, digitalization. But what we've seen over the last decade, that data became the killer app, and the connectivity became a prime vehicle to deliver the considerable cost savings and efficiencies to all the stakeholders in the maritime industry. So if you look back 10 years ago, connectivity used to bring, let's say, approximately 1% of fuel savings. Today, when you overlay this with an IoT platform that can plot the data, show you predictive analysis, performance forecasting, and you can save up to 10% of fuel savings, which is massive. Interestingly, satellite, you go back 10 years or you look at today, still remain the lowest cost center in the entire vessel operation. What it has enabled and is proven to the vessel owners, fleet managers, the value that SATCOM is delivering to the fleet owners has grown exponentially in terms of when you look at the data transmission and what it can enable in terms of cost savings and operational efficiency is actually grown up exponentially. So many years back, I was in a design meeting with Samsung Heavy Industries and one of the largest customer here in the Dubai, United Arab Shipping, when they were receiving their three largest container vessels. And we were sitting around the table, and that time, I'm talking about maybe 10 years back, and that time the ship was equipped with over 10,000 sensors on board the vessel. The challenge was, how do you intelligently transfer that data to the HQ, augment that with the intelligence of the systems that can complement the onboard intelligence of the master, the crew, and the systems, because not everything is urgent. And you're talking about terabyte of data if you really want to transfer that. So no bandwidth is enough that can actually transmit that. So what we have actually seen over in the last 10 years, and with the smart ships of today, Thuraya Broadband Services, along with our partner Value Add Solution, we're able to overcome those challenges today. So this is really actually, you need intelligence on board the vessels within the SATCOM. At the same time, you have the system running in the cloud or back at the HQ to deliver those actually benefits. But what I want to actually touch upon today is a little bit about the next big opportunity for enablement, which actually are in the two domains. One is in the small boat market, particularly fisheries. I'll touch upon that. And the two is the general automation on board the vessel. This is really actually two domains in a broader term. So let me give you a little bit more insight into the fisheries, why we think that there's a problem to be solved. There are about 60 million people employed in the fishery sector. Fishing fleets are approximately 5 million, more or less, including your motorized, non-motorized boats. Fishing production is expected to expand from 179 million ton to 204 million ton in 2030. Massive challenge is how do you control illegal and unregulated fishing? It costs industry $25 billion worth of seafood. That mean, and that's every year, and that means 1 in 5 fish taken from the ocean. So when it comes to tracking and monitoring of small boats, we have 3 key stakeholders. If I look at it from the customer perspective, and the fourth one being our channel partner as well. But the 3 main key stakeholders are the owners, the authorities, and the crew member, because you can't forget the crew member who actually what's in it for me. And SATCOM operators like us, like Thuraya, have to strike a careful balance when they're strategizing their product portfolio, services, that how do you actually serve the interest of all these 3 stakeholders. So we managed to develop a highly intelligent, advanced satellite hardware for the fisheries market called MarineStar that offers a compelling solution to all the stakeholders in the fisheries sector. But at the same time, as I mentioned earlier, the second domain, the same solution actually can act as an independent solution to automate any onboard operations, including larger vessels, reefer containers, fuel, and system monitoring. So some of my colleagues will be touching upon the details of this solution. Some of the other trends that what we're seeing that started to appear in the digital world are the 3D printing. It's making its own way, but once it's in full motion, will be delivering huge logistical savings. Think of a 3D secure printable file that can be sent to the nearest location and have the item printed and delivered locally by a certified entity. So, and these are real cases. This actually obviously has not taken the mass production yet, but again, these are real cases which actually some of the proactive customers are trialing out. Artificial intelligence, another trend that is actually in a very mature stage. There has always been a talk of last nautical mile efficiency, and AI started to deliver some real results in advanced analytics, route optimization, performance forecasting. And just to last to touch upon, and these are some of the high value trends that we're seeing, the edge computing. As I earlier mentioned about the challenge that was faced maybe of the smart ships, how much you really want to offload the data. The edge computing is quite fundamental to the entire equation. With the growth in digitalization, there's a high demand of edge computing. And when I say edge computing, means the SATCOM has to be intelligent. It has to have some intelligence to make sure that it enables the applications on board, make certain decision, and offload the data, which actually is important, which is actually urgent. Not necessarily everything has to be transmitted in real time, and then decide what needs to be batch transferred to the headquarters. So Thuraya has been in the making of intelligent smartphones for over 2 decades. We have actually developed hardware solutions with the converged cellular technology as well. So we do see other technologies as a complementing technology, which is fundamental to our product strategy. Now with our latest development of MarineStar, we have developed intelligent hardware that has a built-in e-log application just to minimize the rail state on board the vessel, but also allow some application component which is embedded, and the cloud infrastructure can leverage that. And with the API access, with enabling cloud applications, we have Kiran here. He will talk about it, and that allows the authorities, the owners, to change the parameters of reporting on the fly. And best of all, not forgetting the crew member, there's a voice circuit switch voice component, which actually allows a crew welfare crew members to talk to their families. They can talk to the marketplace, and same independent solution can be deployed for the Citadel for independent voice for the crisis management as well. So just to summarize, TRAI has a very clear strategy to harness the digitalization, the trends that we are seeing in the market. And we're working towards creating an intelligent, smart hardware SATCOM solution coupled with highly secure, flexible, and affordable satellite services for the industry. That's pretty much a call from my side.
Oh, thanks, Nadeem. So where we're going here is we're trying to sort of stimulate lots of creative ideas about what might be possible with all these tracking systems and new business opportunities, both for people, for shipping companies and suppliers. So we're going to hear about one just now. So Allied eParts is a maritime electronics distributor in Singapore, and Rachel Lowe, the general manager, ASEAN, is going to talk to us. One of the things she's going to explain is if you can have a device that you can use both for tracking and for communications, that's quite good, because if you have a device just for tracking, that's been some vandalism because people don't want to be tracked. But if they use the same thing for communications, then they don't do that. So it's maybe something people haven't thought of. So I'd like to invite Rachel to talk. So Rachel, what requirements are you seeing from fleet managers for maritime tracking and monitoring?
Thanks, Carl. So before I answer your question, I'll just take a really quick moment to briefly introduce myself and my company. So my name is Rachel Lowe. As Carl said, I'm the general manager of Allied eParts. At Allied eParts, we are a marine electronics distributor based in Singapore, and we have several offices around Asia. So Indonesia, Vietnam, China, Japan, South Korea, Hong Kong. We've got many different types of customers, so ship owners, ship management companies, service companies, and we are a key service partner of Thuraya. So going back to your question about the requirements of fleet managers, I think what we're seeing in the market is that there are two very clear trends for fleet managers for tracking and monitoring. The first thing is that there really is an increasing kind of demand for transparency and monitoring of vessel locations. And the second is really a growing expectation of having affordable communications out at sea. So in trying to address both of these demands, what we realized was that while there are a lot of kind of standalone vessel tracking terminals and then standalone satellite communication terminals available in the market, there was a lack of a kind of two-in-one, all-encompassing vessel tracking plus communications terminal. So some people have asked, what's wrong with a standalone terminal, either for tracking or for communication? So, just on the tracking front, based on our own experiences and the experiences of our customers, what we found is that owners and kind of operators face really huge difficulties with standalone tracking terminals. And the reason is because these tracking devices often get disabled or even destroyed by crew members who effectively they don't want to be tracked. Some really crazy examples of this are crew members kind of cutting the terminal cables or even putting a dome over the antenna to prevent tracking. And what we found is a large part of this is basically due to fuel consumption on vessels, because I guess one of the easiest ways to kind of manipulate fuel consumption levels is if the crew basically does not accurately report on the vessel's travel history. So for example, what often happens is that the crew will say that the vessel has traveled a very long distance at a high speed, i.e., consuming a lot of fuel, when in reality, the distance traveled is much shorter, and therefore the fuel consumed is actually much less than reported. So what this means basically is that the crew is able to benefit from this discrepancy between actual fuel consumed and reported fuel consumed, either by selling it or whatever. So with vessel tracking, this kind of manipulation of the fuel consumption levels becomes much more difficult to do, which is why these vessel tracking devices often get destroyed. So back to why we believe it's necessary to have this kind of two-in-one terminal. Based on our customers' feedback, basically installing a terminal that primarily serves as a communication device, more for voice calls or SMS, but with vessel tracking capabilities, which are somewhat hidden, enables the issue around crew disruption, I guess, to go away. Some owners have also told us that they don't like the hassle of having to deal with two different terminals, i.e. one for tracking, one for vessel communications, due to space constraints and the kind of admin burden of managing two different terminals at once. So taking all this feedback into account, this is really why we found the Thuraya MarineStar and SatTrack solution so enticing for our customers. I think Thuraya have really done a really great job with this terminal by creating a kind of all-in-one, user-friendly, affordable terminal, which meets both these demands. I wanted to mention some of the really great features which our customers have told us that they like. The first one, of course, being the accurate vessel locations being sent at every interval, such as every hour or based on vessel speed limits, to a very, very user-friendly, easy-to-use portal, which the HQ can access. And all of this can be done with or without the knowledge of the crew. That's one. Secondly, kind of reliable communications via SMS and voice call. This enables the crew to sort out any operational issues out at sea very quickly. And thirdly, the crew calling cards, which I think is a really great new feature from Thuraya. It basically enables crew members to make phone calls on their own prepaid cards directly on the MarineStar. So what this means is that companies are actually able to manage their airtime bills by splitting operational bills and then kind of personal calls from the crew. A fourth feature I also thought was worth kind of bringing up during this webinar was the fish catch functionality. Again, a new feature really targeted at the fishing market. It enables owners to reduce their airtime costs by creating a very simple SMS format for the crew to use to report on daily fish catch figures. A really good example of this is one of our customers who actually previously used a satellite phone to call back to headquarters to report on fish catch figures daily, incurring kind of higher voice call costs per minute. And now they can basically do it in one simple SMS, reducing their airtime costs by quite a lot. Finally, I just wanted to stress the point around affordability. We've come across quite a few ship owners who have basically given up on the hope of finding a solution for vessel comms and tracking, because I think in their mind, this is a very expensive activity. So again, I just wanted to reiterate, the MarineStar and SatTrack combination is very, very affordable. Most people are very surprised when we provide them with the quotation. So definitely do not give up. The solution does exist. The last thing, Carla, that I'll mention is that getting a good partner to help with the setup of the MarineStar and the SatTrack is very important. You'll want to find a company with experience setting up the tracking system and who will provide you with really great support. So as a bit of, I guess, self-promotion here at LIE Parts, we do have experience working closely together with different types of customers to help set up and figure out the best configuration for tracking. We are always on standby to provide support and answer all your questions. And we do have a sales team in Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore, China, Korea, Japan, Vietnam. So please do feel free to reach out. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Carl.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll just remind everyone that so Nadim and Rachel are available to answer questions by text if you want to answer them in the Q&A before we get onto the oral questions session. But we're going to go back to Thoraiya now, and we're going to hear about tracking for smaller vessels in the Asia Pacific region, where there's lots of boats like work boats, tugs, barges, fishing boats who don't have any satellite connectivity at all, maybe because they thought it was too expensive. But that also means, among other things, they don't have any distress system. So we're going to hear from Dede Abedin, who's Director of Southeast Asia and Australia with Thoraiya, based in Singapore. So Dede, what are the main challenges for small and medium vessels in the Asia Pacific for communications, tracking and monitoring?
Thank you, Carl. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I hope you're keeping well. So from our end, we observe an increasing number of small boats, medium-sized boats that tend to operate locally or regionally. The number of fishing boats, the number of fishermen are increasing year on year. The number of workboats, like the tugs, the barges, is also trending up. Many of these boats we observe are currently operating with a very basic line of sight communication system, usually radio, despite the advancement of SATCOM technology that we have. So I find this really an interesting area for us. We observe some of the challenges faced by this group of vessels and the owners to modernize their system is more often related to the high cost of such system. They also find the system can be at times too complex for the crew to operate and also for the people on shore to access. So when it's becoming too complex, it can be perceived to be unreliable because simply nobody dare to touch that system. And because we, all this can actually cause a serious compromise on the safety and the operations of the vessels, and of course on the crew on board itself. So we have also observed unfortunate incidents where a barge was lost due to a bad weather, and it took days or even weeks for it to be found. We observe cases where fishing boat can go missing, and so is the crew. We have heard time and time again from the industry that the crew are unable to get help when there is an emergency on board. So unfortunately, I think these issues are happening more and more frequently during this uncertain COVID period, and all these are making this particular group of vessels, particular group of crews, to be even more vulnerable. So I believe they actually require solutions that has the right balance to address these challenges. From one side, it must be durable, it must be reliable, it has to come with the features that serve the requirement of the crew on board, like a basic voice, text, ability to send SOS messages in times of emergency. And it also has to actually address the requirement of the operation team on the shore. So this operation team, typically they require some reports from the crew. They require to have a capability to see where the vessels are quickly. So a tracking system. The system has to be simple and easy to operate. And importantly, I think, as Rachel mentioned earlier, it has to be affordable. So Thoraiya MarineStar and SatTrack resolve and address these needs. MarineStar was designed based on one of our major users' requirement. We took time and we listened to the challenges they faced, and we go from there. So it's not top-down approach, but it's really bottoms-up approach. We understand from the user perspective, and we build piece by piece, and we have MarineStar and SatTrack. We made MarineStar to be a robust, high-quality, easy-to-use system. It comes with the basic features like voice and text. It also comes with the more advanced features like control and monitoring, like what Nadim mentioned earlier. And it is affordable. It is, in fact, one of the most affordable, or if not the most affordable SATCOM system in the market. Rachel, I can't explain as well as Rachel, but she mentioned it. She explained it very clearly that many of our customers enjoy significant savings while having more capability in their hand when they use MarineStar and SatTrack. SatTrack, being a software as a service, is a cloud-based solutions. I believe Kiran is going to explain about, elaborate about it later on. But essentially, it makes things a lot easier. It makes things a lot faster for our partners to go to the market. It enables them to upscale their offerings to their customers, allowing them to actually focus more time on their core business operation, which is servicing the customers. So with SatTrack, we actually take a lot of complexity and keep it at our end. We give it as a service to the customers. We give it as a service to our partners. SatTrack with MarineStar enable our customer and our partners to optimize the operations, improve the operations efficiency. And just to further add to all this, whenever our solution is in use, Thuraya 24/7 customer support team will be available for them, our customers, our partners throughout the journey, supporting important operations safely and securely. So I hope I answer your questions, Carl.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, so now we're getting into the software part of the session. We're going to hear from FrontM, which is an app builder in London, which they say their purpose is bringing remote customers, workforces, and automation together. So FrontM's developed a SatTrack software as a service application, which integrates with Thuraya's MarineStar for ship owners to track and monitor their fleets, analyze data, and they can communicate with ships directly from a cloud portal, and they can also give access to regulators and service partners. So I think this is the first time I've seen a satellite communication system which directly integrates with a cloud software. So I'd like to welcome Kiran Venkatesh, co-founder and CEO of FrontM. So Kiran, what are your perspectives on digitalization for tracking and monitoring in shipping?
Thank you, Carl. Firstly, I'm honored to be on this panel, and my huge thanks to all of you for your participation in this webinar. So to share my perspectives on digitalization and tracking and monitoring space, let me start off by touching upon a couple of key challenges traditionally faced in this market. One of the main barriers the maritime fisheries customer ecosystem faces in benefiting from the value of digital solutions is in fact that of solution fragmentation. What does that mean? Let me break that down. Traditionally, service providers and installers have had to assemble compatible satellite connectivity terminals, airtime, fleet manager-focused monitoring tools, regulatory-focused tracking tools, crew-facing safety and communication tools, and so on and so forth to serve each stakeholder's needs. Not only does this mean the complexity for service partners in making the right choices, but also the cost of packaging them, integrating them, testing them, provisioning them, supporting them are all rather high. This simply translates to high cost of service for the customer. So for many parts of the markets, especially fisheries, we missed out on driving digitalization rapidly enough. This I refer to as digital or technological fragmentation problem. And in the context of today's topic, this is a key challenge that we have overcome, which Rachel, Dede, and Nadeem also spoke about. Of course, there are the other key challenges, including the ease of access to such a service from all of the stakeholders' perspective and the user experience, apart from, of course, the cost. These have contributed to adoption barriers in the past. So what have we done? So we have, in partnership with Thuraya, created SatTrack as a digital extension of MarineStar. It makes MarineStar Terminal a truly unified platform that meets the stakeholders' needs, the service partners, the distributors, the fleet managers, the crew members, and the regulators' tracking and monitoring needs. With this design, service partners and customers get a fully pre-integrated cloud solution that enables comprehensive tracking, condition-based monitoring, reporting, safety capabilities, serving essentially all of the needs in in a contextually sensitive manner. So quite simply, SatTrack is a cloud-based, intelligent, secure tool for all of the stakeholders in this equation. By pre-integrating with Thuraia's network, the provisioning interfaces, the billing interfaces, we're able to provide a zero capex offering to the market, which is in our lens going to accelerate digitalization quite rapidly. So let me sum this up. Let me sum up SatTrack. It's a easy to order solution that takes a fraction of a second as a checkbox tick at the time of ordering the terminal. It's a fully managed cloud service aimed at reducing costs dramatically. It's high availability and reliability solution. So it's suitable for all sorts of type approvals and certifications and provides 99% SLA. It's fully omni-channel. That means it's offered as a web service as well as a web portal and an API and mobile apps for customers. It's got built-in communication integrated into MarineStar's network with voice and messaging interfaces. It has advanced general purpose input-output integration. That means condition-based monitoring and a lot of clever smart applications to augment the MarineStar installation. And it's a comprehensive software offering with various data and digital analytics overlays. You know, the weather, the speed, geofencing, alerts, fleet management, and a whole raft of capability all tucked into a single platform. So to engineer MarineStar platform with SatTrack has been nothing but a marvel in many ways for us. We're pushing the boundaries of satellite connectivity and advancement in cloud and edge computing to these new frontiers. And yes, ultimately, the goal is for us to together make sustainable fisheries a real possibility. And that's me, Carl. Thank you.
Wow. Well, that's fantastic. So now we're going to the Q&A part of the session. You see there's already a couple of questions coming up. So I'll just ask a few questions to give you more time to think of questions. But just trying to think through this fishery business. It's I mean, I don't know much about fisheries. How, I mean, trucks are regulated very highly all over well, certainly in Europe. You know, where trucks are and what speed they're going, they all carry data, whereas it seems like fishing boats aren't. I don't know if it's about the competence of the administrations in different parts of the world, or if it's about the technology or what we need to make this move. I don't know. Maybe we'll go back to Nadeem, should we? How will we get this? What's the obstacles of more fishing regulation on and making regulators take advantage of this satellite communications? Is that I don't know which of you most about fish. I'm suggesting Nadeem, but
Sure, absolutely. I think maybe part we can answer, Kiran and myself. So if you look at it, I think it varies from region to region. Asia actually very high actually in terms of when it comes down to the unregulated and kind of illegal fishing. 80% of the market is actually there. So it's very much driven by the regulations. And you don't want to be actually having a yellow card from the EU and just completely block the biggest part of your GDP in terms of the export. So if you move in some of the other regions, for example, Middle East, Africa, it's about safety and security. So because the primary driver is really actually how to actually make sure these small boats actually don't end up doing anything and use in some other operation. So I think if you look at, so it's quite diverse from that perspective, but what actually is very clear that authorities want a transparent way to make sure that they don't want actually any onboard intervention, regardless whatever the system is, whether it's fisheries, whether any other onboard system, they want to actually come over the air, change the parameter as the situation develops, and they can simply just do that. So that actually MarineStar takes care of it. So allows through a cloud infrastructure like SatTrack, where the authorities and all it's a multi-tenanted environment. So whoever actually have the right access, they have the right authority to connect securely to the terminal and just do that what they need to do, whether it's safety security related, whether it's to do with operations, and get that data. And on board the vessel, you simply have a very secure kind of environment that what actually end user you really want it to enter or not to enter. It could be complete seamless, and crew is just only allowed to make a voice call, nothing else. So that kind of like we created a system which is actually much more open, so it can fit into multiple different situations. So it's not one size fit all, but Asia is very much dominating from the regulatory perspective. They want to make sure that they're actually allowed to export. It's traceable. They know exactly who have caught, where it has been done, and answer those questions technically. If Kiran, I don't know if you want to add anything from the platform.
Just to underline a couple of points Nadeem made around, in fact, the complex parameters from the global community that want a sustainable blue ocean, from the regulators' perspective who want to enforce and drive those regulatory compliances in the local regional operations, and the owners and the fleet managers' perspective who want to maximize profits in their operation. So there is actually a complexity and, in fact, dichotomy in these drivers, and to truly to strike a fine balance in creating a solution that caters to the regulators' needs and the fleet managers' needs at the same time is a fine trick. And in fact, it has to make sure that it is cost effective, and it has to have the right incentives for the customers to be able to adopt and operate the solution in serving their own operational needs and their own business parameters, whilst at the same time empowering the regulators to be able to regulate the operations better. So that balance has been brought about with the combination of Marinestar and Sattrac here, which I think is key for driving the sustainability if you wear the wider lens in this market space.
Okay, so there's two open questions now. So Kiradeem Medin is asking about the coverage area of Indian waters, and Connor Bean is asking about how you handle time zone changes. I guess that's something you can do within the app, I guess. So maybe Nadeem, do you want to give a quick summary of the coverage area, and then that sounds like for you, Kiran, the question about how you manage time zone changes, is it?
Right, thanks. So I would imagine, I think is to do with Indian waters, where actually there's a regulatory kind of like a compliance that TRAI has to do, and that actually what we have done just for a seamless operation for the owners. So there's certain regulatory compliance that as soon you enter in Indian territorial waters, the TRAI SATCOM has to be silenced, mean like it should not be communicating with the satellite. And there's certain permissions needs to be required. If you fall into that, then you continue. Otherwise, this is a rule of thumb at the moment. So what we have done, we have factored that in our Marinestar, because number of vessels actually do end up. So you don't want to end up in hot waters. And this simply allows you to just geofence. As soon as you enter in the Indian territorial waters, the radio actually switches off, means you do not communicate, because regulator can detect that. So it automatically done. There's no owners on the vessel owners or the master. They're in compliance with the regulator, and that feature has been built in if there's no permission granted by the regulator to the vessel owner that they can operate. So we have factored that in. Yeah.
Oh, so Kiran, do you want to answer Connor's question about how you handle time zone changes in your software?
Yeah, in fact, it turns out Marinestar is a fairly powerful equipment. It has the ability to send the local time zone and the time information in addition to the location information. So what the portal and the intelligence of the portal does is it pulls that data seamlessly from the terminal and equips or empowers the fleet managers in monitoring as per the local time zone of the operating area.
Wow, that's great. Should we bring Rachel back into the discussion? I don't know if there's any of these points you'd like to talk about, or there's a question about the security systems in the Marinestar and the Sattrac. I don't know if you want to talk about anything you'd like to give any thoughts on, Rachel?
So, sorry, which question are you referring to?
Oh,
I just wanted to jump in on the Indian water.
You go ahead. Yeah, that one.
Nadeem
Yeah.
answered. So one of our customers actually did operate in the Indian waters, and what they did is, as Nadeem said, there's a function where you go radio silence, or actually you can just unplug the device. Obviously not a perfect solution, but it means that you can still kind of comply with regulation and still use the terminal once you're outside. It's very simple, nothing difficult, no special programming required, just plug in and plug out. So that is also another option for customers who are concerned about operating in Indian waters. Yes.
Oh. I'm looking at the answer, Nadeem, you gave to Rov's question about the security features of Marine Star. So if crew, once they've entered data about their catch, you can't change it, but that assumes that the crew are entering the right data in the first place. I guess all these incentives are so complicated when we're dealing with sort of crime, I suppose, aren't they? But do you want to elaborate on that one a bit, Nadeem?
Yeah, sure. So the terminal is designed in a way that once it's pre-configured, and typically the fishing zone has been assigned when the vessel goes out. So people know, and that could be part of the license of the vessel, what zone, time frame they can go and fish, and how much they can fish. So typically it's a combination of there's a kind of they send the data over the Marine Star, but there could be a spot check at the port where somebody can just tally that if you have actually said I've caught that much tuna, and you actually incorrectly reported. So that I think is just is a cross check between. But the terminal has a very simple interface. We used our experience of our satellite phone, which is known and popular in the world. If you compare with any satellite phone in the world, the Thuraya interface is a lot simpler. A lot of research went into it. It's a very Nokia style, you can say, people, because that's what you want on the handset. You don't want anything else. So we actually use a lot of our expertise of that and factor that. And in Marine Star has got a very small screen. So we leverage that how easily you can input, because less time and less key buttons you need to use to input the data. And that's a very small application running inside the hardware, which interface with the SatTrack platform. So everything gets fed from there to the cloud environment, and that become available to all the stakeholders. So you do not need to send multiple transactions. That saves the cost. So one transfer of the data. So once that data is entered, then you cannot just go and temper, or if you try to do anything, let's say the GPS, the power needs to be turned off, everything gets recorded. So, and once every system comes back live, it actually reports back. So there is a kind of like an audit trail. You know exactly what has happened. So that's kind of one. The other features, which there's a SOS button, which can be configured to route the call to any stakeholder. Very important, because in some cases, like giving example of Pakistan, a lot of fishermen end up unknowingly in the Indian waters. So a marine security can actually trigger a call or a buzzer remotely to warn the fishermen while they're fishing that you actually entering in a no-go area. So that actually, and the call can be triggered from the fishermen, or because there's a Thuraya number on it, any authority can digitally call the number as well. So there's certain features from the safety security perspective. So at least it's more than just a message. Typically in the VMS days, there's no voice. So you actually relying that somebody, I hope that somebody have read my message and they're going to come to rescue. Here's really actually there's a voice component there. So and the feature of over the air, you can come transparently, fetch the data outside the given time frame. So if you have set the time frame that every 2 hours report the GPS or maybe the other data back to the cloud, you actually can use the cloud infrastructure where SatTrack triggers over the air command and says, I want real-time data now. And that can be done without the knowledge of anybody on board the vessel. So there's some very smart features, and we use a lot of our partners in the development, customers, to come up with something rather than thinking of our own, which I don't think we can do in isolation. So it has a lot more input from the real end user stakeholders in the value chain.
Oh, very good. I'm thinking about ideas for app building. So Dede, you mentioned this enormous potential market of workboats and tugs and fishing boats who don't have any communications. And Kiran, you're building all kinds of apps I was just connecting that with the Ever Given story. There's a lot of speculation about why that happened, if it was because of crew fatigue or going too fast. And, you kind of think, there could have been all kinds of apps on board the tugboats that would give people all kinds of information they didn't have. I don't know. You must have thought through ideas. Nadeem, you mentioned 3D printing at the beginning. I don't know if you've got any specific applications of that at the moment you thought of, but I don't know if anybody would like to, maybe we haven't heard from Dede for a while, but do you want to, is there specific ideas of stuff you think could be built in your imagination perhaps so far?
Well, yeah, actually, thanks again, Carl, for the questions. Just to bring the capability of the Marine Star, I think Nadeem and Kiran explained it very detailed. So it's Rachel. I just wanted to share one of the case that is done by one of our partners in the region. In these COVID times, they actually trying to improve the operations on board by knowing which crew are actually going to certain locations on that particular boats. So what they do, typically they start with the bridge, this one with the bridge. So what they do is before the crew enter the bridge, they actually put a fingerprint recognitions, like a fingerprint system, and it will be automatically recorded and it's transmitted straight away with the Marine to the Marine Star, and it's transmitted back to the HQ. So this integration, I find it very actually rather interesting. It's really applicable to the current situation that we are facing at this moment. The integration is ongoing, and they are facing, this requirement is actually not just created by the partners so that they can sell it, but this requirement is actually coming from the industry, coming from the customers that want to have the capability to know who's going where. It's just one example of how Marine Star can be actually can be used to provide a lot more than what you can see as it is, just a phone system and antenna, but it's actually a lot more capabilities that we can provide.
And
I'm not sure whether Nadeem or Kiran maybe can.
Yeah, to complement that and to add to that, to Carl's question, we have conceived and designed both Marine Star and Satrak with a certain amount of openness to harness a roadmap. So the RS-232 interface, the GPIO, and the OTAs on the Marine Star terminal side enables a lot of additional capabilities to be augmented based on customer sectors or market specific requirements. And then from a portal perspective, it is in fact bottom up conceived as an app ecosystem and an app marketplace. Satrak primarily is today geared towards providing tracking, monitoring, and analytics around that with communication with Marine Star, but has the potential to be extended based on regulatory needs and changes in the market requirements, including some of the near-term innovations that we're looking to drive, such as bringing AIS and collision detecting, such as driving more alerting based on weather patterns and speed patterns, such as adding more intelligence to the reporting around catch operations. So the operational benefits for the fleet managers is more direct, such as harnessing a global perspective from a fish catch regulation perspective, and looking at where the sustainability drivers are moving. So yes, both the terminal and the hardware system, as well as the software system, are enablers for an open platform to drive innovation forward in an accelerated manner going forward.
Wow. So there's a question here from Maverick Han about API for polling vessel position and heading information. So I guess he's thinking about software which would use vessel position and heading. I don't know, is that kind of the example of what you were just talking about? You can
Absolutely. So the Satrak platform provides an API off the shelf that includes the position and heading information. So yes, it is exposed as a web service, extremely seamless yet secured for partners to access the information and program it to their needs onwards.
Oh, that's great. Rachel, I can see a question from you, but it's in the answered session from Anton Zakharov. He's talking about the RS-232 port. If there's no digital output, what you do, you don't collect it. But I guess this is all kind of your electronics company, so you're fixing problems with interfaces on board, I guess. That's
So I mean, we distribute marine electronics products. So typically, if there basically isn't a digital output, then no, we can't collect the data. But maybe Didi or Kieran also can kind of jump in and help to respond on that question.
Yeah, sure. There's what is called the general purpose input output interface, the GPIO interface, in addition to the RS 232. So what that enables is for additional gears to be augmented, and for the portal to be able to send and receive messages back and forth, and to be able to control them remotely. So I'm scrolling up and down to see the specific question that Carl is pointing to.
It's in the answered panel under Mohammed Khan. It's a sort of comment to a comment. That's why.
I hope I have addressed it more or less.
Yeah. Well, it's all possibilities, isn't it? I guess we can't do everything, but we're definitely moving in the direction of more connectivity. I suppose that's the main theme. And yeah. Well, what about 3D printing? I mean, Nadeem mentioned 3D printing. I don't know if anybody's got, I mean, obviously it's exciting technology, but in terms of specific examples, has anybody thought of any specific examples where we connect these kind of systems with 3D printing? I guess spare parts printing, that's one we often hear about. Is that, I don't know if anybody would like to share any thoughts at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, like the reason I actually mentioned, because this actually started to emerge. If you look up on the internet, you'll find some commercial entities who actually finding, I think that the biggest cost saving is on the logistical part, because you really want to actually get the right part where the vessel is heading. And obviously this is a complete ecosystem you started to build up now, where the certified entities who knows exactly what material has been approved, can deliver the quality, but you simply just sending a file where it can be produced locally by the time vessel gets in time, and it can be delivered locally or closer to that region. So there's a logistical savings. That's what I think is probably the biggest driver, which driving the 3D printing. And from the SATCOM perspective, obviously, it's just that what other use cases we can enable. I mean, it needs to be transmitted. Obviously, there will be some other platform who will be plugging into this ecosystem, which is very new, but there's some real use cases where people can benefit. But it's really, I think, and logistically, we know the amount of parts needs to be shipped, the time frame it takes. There's a lot of actually downtime on the vessel, which can be saved, and you can make it a lot more efficient. So if the vessel can save 2 days of waiting somewhere and be at the port in the next port, that's a huge savings. And so I think it's a growing field. In Dubai, we have seen even people start building. It's a construction kind of like a zone where people now start building using the 3D material to even build the houses as well. So as the technology advancing, but marine actually you'll be able to see some real use cases. Some early adopters are trialing.
Oh, so there's a question from Connor Byrne. Perhaps this is for Dede. So he's asking about the crew internet access. Is this so if crew want to have internet access, and I guess a lot of these workboat customers would like to have internet on board for their own use. I guess they're often owner-operated vessels, aren't they? But perhaps you get the SATCOM in offering internet access, but then you also get this regulatory and tracking at the same time. Do you have any thoughts on how that works?
Yes, thanks, Carl. So indeed, I think with the advancement of the satellite technologies, the crew getting younger, the internet access demand, the crew on board are obviously increasing. That's not really, I mean, we are looking into that, but that's not really what we are addressing with the Marine Star at this moment. We are looking from a different angle altogether. We'll be keen to actually discuss, I guess, a bit more with Connor on where exactly these particular requirements that he may have. Perhaps we can discuss it separately. But this is not really what we are trying to address with the Marine Star and SatTrak at this particular point of time. But yes, we are looking. If you're asking about it, yes, we are looking into that.
So it's mainly business.
I just want to add. Sorry, go ahead, Richard.
Just to jump in also, I guess, from our perspective, as Didi said, obviously, we're not targeting customers who want data usage with the Marine Star, but it does have very, very low data capabilities, 32, I think, kilobytes per second. But what we found is that people who want data capabilities, but also want the tracking and voice and SMS can buy the Orion IP as a combination with the Marine Star. So the Orion IP is a kind of data IP terminal from Thuraya, and they offer a package which comes together with the Marine Star. So you can kind of kill two birds with one stone just by buying that full package. And they are now also offering kind of airtime. So you just manage one airtime plan across both terminals.
Oh, so Nadeem, you could say something?
Yeah, I just want to add to, I think, to Connor's question. So if you look at like it, we have a laddered portfolio in terms of Marine Star fits right at the narrow band. Kind of like this is where what you call the automation is being driven. So if you look at global world traffic, which is used to be called M2M, now it's called IoT, is actually run on a 2.5G network. 70% of world traffic. So that shows that there's automation around the world. That includes land as well. This actually done on, you can do it on simply your SMS type of kind of platform. So what we have seen, and when you get into, and I'll talk about what currently some of the partners I can see actually who on the actual webinar, who currently developing and already have trialed some of the applications using Marine Star that, and it's all to do with the cloud infrastructure. You actually don't require a broadband connection to actually do a basic messaging type of app for the crew welfare. So depending on the crew welfare, when you say internet access, it could be as simple as messaging, WhatsApp, and then it connects with all the everything, and you actually can have a very smart cloud infrastructure, which is same concept as the tracking. Take the messaging from that a crew member actually interfacing. You have some Bluetooth interface that the middleware that interface with the terminal. Thuraya actually does offer, with the only operator who actually in the narrowband terminal also have a GMPRS connection. Means we offer two type of main data connectivity. One is the kind of messaging, where you pack everything like a tracking, even small messages can be transported. Otherwise, you can actually activate a GMPRS, which is a very low bandwidth, maybe 8-10 kbps, but it's an IP connection. And you actually can open up. It's not designed for the browsing and all that, but you can batch that transfer of the message again to the cloud infrastructure. And from the cloud infrastructure, the WhatsApp messages goes to all your family, friends. It's kind of like a store and forward, but it's still better than, and that what you can, you don't require a broadband terminal. If the requirement grows, then you actually get into our CPRO, which is Rachel mentioned, the Orion terminal is a broadband terminal. And then it's a completely different ball game. You say, you know, I want to open up a browser, and I really want to actually watch maybe some videos, browse, and all that. And for that, because it's a narrow, it's a broadband L-band terminal, 0.5 meg. We have partners who actually created value-add solutions where actually it can deliver up to 2 meg performance, because they do caching, compression, all that, and you actually can do. So it depends the application, but Marine Star actually is able to enable these creative channel partners, application developers to create an application where you can do messaging with a family without knowing that this is actually store and forward.
Oh, that's great. Well, we just have a couple of minutes left. I think there's some very interesting things coming up here. I suppose it's 32 kilobits a second is much better for cybersecurity perspective, because it's very hard to hack if you've only got 32 kilobits a second, and that's fine for a lot of the monitoring we're going to do. I made a note about this regulators changing the parameters for reporting on the fly, which is something we didn't have time to go into, but I think that's also very interesting. I guess maybe if we bring in perhaps Rachel and then Kieran, because perhaps do you want to give a minute if you have any sort of last words you'd like to leave people with before we go? Just
Hi, sorry, just on last words or
yes, just for a minute, yes.
Okay, okay. So I mean, I think I covered most of it in the initial Q&A, but we really do think that the Marine Star and SatTrack combination is really impressive. It meets a lot of demands coming from the market. So yeah, I mean, I'm really pleased with the kind of feedback that we're getting, and I just expect it to grow going forward. So yeah, please reach out if you have specific configuration requirements. I know there were questions around kind of integration with different sensors, etc. Just reach out. As Nadeem, Didi, Kieran mentioned, it's kind of an open platform. So it's all about kind of working together with different partners.
Okay. Kieran, do you want to take a minute for any last words?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've designed SatTrack keeping service partners and providers in mind. and removing the need for them to make the same redundant investments in integration. So it is provided as a service geared towards service providers and the channel partners in order to make sure the most cost-effective solution is available for the customer ecosystem. So really exciting times, and I hope that we can drive towards the ultimate goal of driving sustainability in the fisheries market.
That's great. Nadeem, you have any final words?
Just final words. The way actually I think it's very important to communicate that the way we differentiate from us as an operator in the market with others is simply because people don't wake up asking for SATCOM. People have a problem, they want a solution, and within the solution, you want every single chain a stakeholder in the value chain to actually assist that customer. So we actually we don't actually just leave the hardware is developed. We constantly optimize. We have full control of the manufacturer on the firmware. If the project requires changes, tweaks, we have a great product team who actually work with a channel partner and end customer to make sure we can deliver that solution, which may be different to what we have done in other regions. So that flexibility actually Thuraya brings, and the level of engagement from the product. So those are just my final words. Yeah,
well, that's great. Well, I hope we've given you lots of ideas for the summer to think through about new business opportunities. I shall pass back to Vida. Cheers.
Thank you. So this was our last webinar of this month. Thanks all of you for attending. Also Rachel, Nadeem, Dede, and Kiran for stepping up to the limelight today. We'll put the video recording on YouTube that you may get back to anytime, and digital YouTube channel. Digital Ship YouTube channel has all our video recordings that you might find quite a decent learning platform for summertime. Keep an eye on our webinar schedule. And now Digital Ship is signing off. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
thank you. Bye-bye.